Let's start with your introduction, sir. Could you please tell us about yourself and your journey with CCBA?
Good afternoon. My name is Daraius Choksi. I am the Director of Architecture in CCBA Designs. Uh, I am born and brought up in Mumbai, but then shifted to Pune about 25 years ago. And ever since, I've been working with Christopher on his various projects and have worked through the entire gamut of projects ranging from small redevelopments to large institutions all across the country and including abroad. And currently, we are a studio of about 50 architects, and we sort of still try to believe in what our philosophy is, and we try to create works that are long lasting and creation as a legacy for architecture rather than just building structures for one's own satisfaction.
So, thank you for the introduction, Architect Daraius. Uh, can we talk about your recent projects, that is Forbes Marshall Factory in Pune? What were the client's requirements and how did you go ahead with the design and vision for this project, which is really great and a green project? Could you please talk about the project?
So we've been associated with the Forbes group for the last 14 or 15 years. They came to us first for their factory that they wanted to build in Chakan about 2010, 2011. And as a brief, they said they want to design it as a campus. We were not industrial architects. We'd never done industrial buildings earlier. And they came with us with that simple brief. Can you make something which is good, which is iconic, and design it as a campus? And with that brief, we started moving ahead on that, and we built the first campus, the first industrial thing with in Chakan. And over the past 15 years, we've done about 4 or 5 structures with them. Each one of them has won, at least two of them, the big ones have won IIA awards besides numerous other awards. And though they're industrial buildings, they don't look and feel like industrial structures. So Forbes Group has been there for a very long time in Pune, and they've been basically manufacturing all across. And what we've done in the last few months, I would say, is their Kasarwadi campus, which was essentially the headquarters, and sort of revamping and rebranding that and creating a new outlook for that building, which was built. I wouldn't say it was not iconic. It was built with a lot of dedication and love over a period of time over the last 50, 60 years, but it lacked the cohesiveness to sort of bring it up into the next level. And the brief was A, to sort of create an office space, revamp whatever was built part of the structure was in steel, part of it was in concrete, sort of get it all together, create a new milieu for that entire campus and bring it up to whatever was required so that it could be um, an office as well as an environment for people to enjoy. Forbes is famous for one thing. It's always come in the top 10 places to work. And it's the only industrial firm which is in that. Others, the other ones are normally Apple and Microsoft, Google, which companies are not into hardcore manufacturing. So Forbes has been consistently ranked in the top 10 places to work. And they sort of, obviously, the buildings create a lot of environment for that sort of space. And that is how we started approaching this structure.
I want to know about the area of the project. Could you please tell us about the area and how big is the project? And when did you start and when did you complete the project?
So with Forbes, so essentially Forbes is scattered in 3 parcels of land in Pune. One is in Chakan, one is in Pimpri, and one is in Kasarwadi, which is in Pimpri Chinchwad on the old Bombay-Pune highway. We have projects in all 3 of the campuses. And the one that I'll tell you today is about the Kasarwadi campus. In the Kasarwadi campus, what we've sort of done it is taking the existing building which was there, which was essentially the ground floor was an industrial building factory, which wasn't in use for the last maybe 10 years or so, because most of the manufacturing work has gone to Chakan. It was built by the founder of the Forbes, that is Daraius Forbes. He built it over a period of time from the 50s, 60s, and incrementally the building has been added over. It's about 60,000 square feet of space spread over two levels. We are going to add a new structure adjacent to it, as well as create a garden or a space, a memory space in this entire thing. And the approach was A, unifying whatever was built, retaining that, and creating a language that is for the ages. It's not a style of interiors or architecture. It would be both sustainable, which is by default for any of our projects. Plus, it would be something that would grace agefully, which we feel in interiors doesn't happen very easily, because once you sort of do the envelope, there was a lot of work that we had to do in creating spaces in the interiors. Um, the space was, it's essentially it's four bays. One is done in steel, one is done in concrete, one is done in load bearing. A lot of other issues in terms of how courtyards were, how the spaces were, the roofs were sort of ad hoc built over a period of time. We wanted to get it all streamlined and get a completely solar powered solar panels on the roof. So all that was done. And during all of this, the head office was supposed to be working, including the top management, the directors, the uh, MDs, chairman, everyone was sort of still working in that building. So we approach it as a completely different thing. And once you come in buildings, you get a lot of surprises. Like what we thought was concrete turned out to be load bearing walls. In certain areas, the concrete beams were 1.5 meters deep, but the walls, the concrete in the columns was M8 or M9, which in today's world just doesn't work. And structural designers were not willing to be comfortable with that sort of structure. So we had to first strengthen the structures. We had to do carbon wrapping in certain areas. We had to uh, do tests and get the levels done. At the same time, the client is someone, so you need a lot of conversation with the client. They are the ones who will push you to strive ahead, strive more. It's very easy when you show something to the client and say, perfect, go ahead with that. It doesn't push you. In this project, we've been pushed at all stages. And once we started construction, the client was like, why can we explore underfloor cooling, radiant cooling? And yes, it started getting integrated into the system. It was something which was more experimental because there were large spaces. We couldn't do it on the upper floors because slabs were not designed for that load. They had got aerocon slabs in certain areas. And it became as an experiment and it started working. And the evaporative cooling is sort of functional from the 1st of May. It had its teething problems, but it works very well now. And we've cut down the AC load by over 50% in this exercise as such.
Mhm. So such large scale projects, most of your projects are really big. And you have been doing a lot of adaptive reuse of materials and the building itself in this project. Could you please tell us about it?
So the way this project is there's this entire line of projects which are built on the old Bombay Pune highway, which sort of have the railway line on one side and have got the old Bombay Pune highway on one side. The highway has expanded over time. The railways have sort of a no-build zone on a large, so that they can also expand. And this piece of site is long and narrow. It's about 8 acres plus in totality, out of which we are tackling about 3.5 acres in the first phase. Uh, the idea was to retain that location. It's a very prime location now. with a metro station about 100 meters away only from the gate, and take it up ahead and make the campus equipped for the next 30 years. And so obviously the first thing is making spaces. And the client believes a lot in landscape. I wouldn't say landscape as what people look as landscape gardens. He believes in dense foliage, a green look, and obviously try to inculcate that into as many aspects of the building as possible and the campus. Um, as we said earlier, the campus was built around many phases. So first we had to sort of do a master plan as how we could sort of construct it in different phases, link it up together, what has to be built, what has to be retained. We had to build on the existing plinths in many areas because it was a rehab of the spaces, and otherwise we couldn't get with the current setbacks, we wouldn't be able to build more beyond those areas. So the first 3 months went in studying how the campus has to function sort of in lies and ways in terms of sustainability, in terms of operations. And then we started tackling it in terms of structure, which sort of took a little more time because there were surprises at every area. There was load-bearing walls in stone in some areas. There were walls, there were arches. Uh, Aerocon slabs were done as experimental. A lot of ferroconcrete, which today's structural team would do it, but it's they're not very comfortable working with these materials. So we had a very good structural designer on board, and along with them, we sort of started approaching each bay or each part of the building on its own. The 60,000 square feet is one building. We are already adding canteens, redeveloping old factories, and creating a new G+2 structure, which will sort of create a bridge between the uh, old office and the new, so as to take care of the expansion that the group is also going through. And so while all that was going on, we sort of had to create a vision for it. So something that we had a disparate elevation of stone, brick, plastered white, concrete, glass, sort of create a language for it. Make it more sustainable. As we said, we did a lot of studies on how to get down the AC load. But the old structure was just retained and revamped to take the future. So the first identity we started working was with creating a facade which would sort of tie up this old building. And that facade was made of glass with aluminum fins with a certain amount of distance between the two, both for maintenance as well as for creating sort of a heat sink there. And then that facade was with vertical fins. We didn't try with horizontal here. Vertical fins, and each zone sort of had to have fins at a different angle so as to minimize heating, the direct light ingress. The factory works from 8:30 or 9 in the morning to 5 or 6 in the evening. So it's the entire day. And it's facing predominantly south and west. And east is where the entrance and reception is. So we first tackled the south facade before then going on to the east and the west. The north facade would open into a garden with parasols. So that was more controlled in our hand, and so as to give views across this green space that we were now creating inside this industrial environment. And so that is how the design happened. And it took a little bit of more time than was expected, but we managed to do it. At least the first phase of the building is complete now.
This project took a lot of time and effort and a lot of thought process gone behind to make it a greener project. What are the technological methods like the carbon wrapping, which you have used as an innovative feature for this project? Could you please tell us about this? How did it help?
Carbon wrapping was done on the structure. to sort of strengthen the old columns which were built, as well as sort of not add too much onto what is already, because the columns were quite large. And so carbon wrapping was done in that area. On the sustainability front, see, as a matter of principle, what we believe in, any building has to be sustainable, whether we go for a LEED or TERI rating or not. As a philosophy, as an architect, we have to build something that is sustainable, which is environment friendly and which is people friendly. Uh, so the first thing that, like we said, obviously, being large scale offices with over, even the design started for about 100 and 120 people. Currently, 250 people use that space because the company expanded much faster than what was planned for. So human comfort was something that was there. We had to create air conditioning is required, no doubt, with especially this year where temperatures cross 40 consistently in Pune, which is very rare. Um, and so air conditioning was there, but the question was how to minimize the use of air conditioning. So obviously, underfloor cooling came into it, and even the way the AC was placed and located was in only in certain areas. And the design temperature also that we do for is not for 21 or 22 degrees. We do it for 25 or 26 degrees, which is actually a very good comfort temperature. And in weathers like this, the AC doesn't run per se as a cooling mechanism. It's more as a humidity control. Uh, the facade was wrapped around, as I mentioned earlier, with sort of a layer of fins. We wanted natural light in all the offices. So the days which are open, exposed outside, they still today there is no artificial lighting. They do not use artificial lighting during the daytime. It's only when it's in the evening or when it's cloudy that they go for artificial lighting. So the question was getting a lot of light into the space, which easily achieved with facades and all. The question was to allow the light in, but not allow the heat in. So that is when we started experimenting with different facades. We tried with jalis, we tried with horizontal louvers, precast jalis, and we sort of narrowed down to a system of extruded aluminum fins. These are essentially elliptical fins, oriented in a way that it cuts down the light, the direct heat, and the glare, but allows light to come in. And besides that, we sort of moved ahead onto um, areas. We didn't use expensive glasses and all because the way the design was done was it would control the glare and the heat gain. We used normal glazing. Um, in very select areas, we use double glazing, but that is more to sort of cut down the noise that would come from the highway and from the railway line and the metro line. We used low volume fans besides the air conditioning to help sort of spread the cool air. So where a normal tonnage of about 50 or 60 tons would be used, we've used approximately 18 or 20 tons only. So that's how with evaporative cooling we managed and a system of air transfer, we managed to get down that load. Lighting, it's basically a series of ambient lighting, obviously designed for 300, 350 lux, but a series of lights which are both focused lights as well as overall lighting. So again, that cuts down on your power requirements. Water requirements are minimal. Um, it's not a factory anymore, but besides landscaping, we're not using, and that is also recycled and rainwater harvested water. So the entire water from the roof, as well as from the parasols that we'll be creating, would be channelized and stored in a underground tank that's about 3 lakh liters plus of water. So that would be sort of reused. It's a huge water tank for the amount of people that we have. And it can store water easily for up to a month more. And that same water will be used for gardening and flushing. Uh, and we've also created a new canteen. Again, it's on a plinth that was existing. It's a ground story structure with a fabric roof and HVLS fans. Again, with large glazing, but with overhangs, so that you get lighting, and it's got evaporative cooling also, and no air conditioning at all in that canteen.
Overall, it is a green project when you look at it, listening to your description on this project. Since our magazine and the website is focused on the facade part and the fenestration, how did you reach on choice of such materials? Looking at the projects which is all around now with all glass facades, and this is a totally different project with a lot of solid walls and glass used intelligently. So could you please tell me, how did you choose, and how did you use some kind of tools or software to reach at this design?
We use our basic tools and all, but I think more than artificial intelligence, we use a lot of normal human intelligence. That's one of the basics. What is there? Uh, as a material, glass is a beautiful material. It sort of removes all boundaries. Plus, it is easy to maintain, easy to clean. It's got a lot of benefits. The problem is that most of us do not use glass intelligently. We sort of use it as a cut and paste option or as an easy solution. It's not that. You have to respect the properties of glass and use it wisely in the correct locations. You can use it on the southern facade, you can use it on a western facade. We should know how to use it and how to treat it. And that is something that we, in CCBA designs, we've been doing it from the very beginning, where we have used glass as a material that sort of fuses the external spaces and the internal spaces and sort of let them flow into it. But we've been doing that from at least 30 plus years, and we've never let glass sort of dictate us that, okay, how it has to be used. We use it in such a way that you don't need air conditioning also if you have a glass facade. And we've got through in various locations, but you have to respect its properties of getting in heat and glare and sort of play around that. So the facade is full glass in especially on the south, wherever, because we didn't change the facade or add any dead masses onto the structure, except where it was already prevalent in the building. And we sort of first created this sliding window facade. It's not a fixed window facade. So on good days, you can sort of open the windows and it works very well, especially with the evaporative underfloor cooling. And then you have this, you studied how to control the heat gain in the glare. You obviously have large overhangs and use that space intelligently, both for maintenance as well as for controlling as a buffer between the external heat and the internal cooled spaces. And with fins and louvers, you always have this dilemma of vertical versus horizontal. Horizontal helps more in terms of heat gain, but it sort of controls your views to a certain extent. So we went for vertical louvers. It gives us fabulous views outside into the gardens, which are being created. And we did studies on solar angles, different times of the day, different days of the month, and different months of the year, and sort of got of the best angles to put, and on different facades in different areas, whether it's office or non-office. We've sort of oriented those fins in different directions to cut down the heat gain as well as the glare. And the roof is an insulated metal roof. Also, the type of roof we use is a clip-on system, so there is no screwing in the roof. Also, on the roof, it's easy to add on solar panels. So almost the entire electrical load that is for computers and all comes through the solar power system, panel system, which has been introduced.
CCBA is been working in this field, doing a lot of projects for the past 40 years, right?
Yes.
So, the kind of material which you have been using over the years, and what kind of material do you like to see in future, say in another 20 years to come, in the building industry? Something which you wish it is there while I'm designing this project, or the kind of technologies which you look forward to, so that the buildings become more greener and more efficient.
So when we first started construction, we used a lot of exposed brick, exposed concrete. We still use exposed concrete and brick in certain areas, and a lot of basalt stone walls in our construction in and around Pune. Local materials, local climatic, the people on sort of knew how to use the materials and how to best use it. CDSA, Mahindra, YMCA, examples of, if I would go for a green rating, I wouldn't get it for those buildings, but they are more sustainable and more environment friendly than anything that could have been built in those times. Uh, Material wise, in today's world or in say 20 years down, something that is more recycled would be the answer, because we build a lot, we create a lot, and but whenever we build, and now the market is going more or more towards redevelopment, because obviously there is no greenfield sites or very restricted greenfield sites available. You come up with a lot of construction waste. Construction weight is huge by volume, and it still has good properties. It's just that um, with a little bit of an R&D and research, somebody's going to come with something that will be much cheaper, much, it will become environment friendly by default, I would say. And something which would be reusing most of this waste more effectively. It's still being done in steel, it can be done in glass. It's in India still, it's recycling is still a big thing, though not on paper, but the sort of inorganic market is all into recycling. A little bit of standardization in that. Glass is a very beautiful material, and still sort of using it more and more and creating spaces which sort of link with the outside. The glass is something which can be used, but again, it has to be used intelligently, both by architects as well as by builders contractors, so that it can sort of fulfill what it's designed to do, that is keep one in contact with nature. Because people use full glass facades and then they have double curtain walls inside to both to stop the glare, and so it doesn't make sense. So these are the materials that have to be used intelligently, and for the future, I think they would be the solution. The other sort of fad materials will come and go. They'll have a life of their own. But these steel, concrete, glass, brick, wood, hopefully, and stone would be the materials in the long run.
That's right, sir. I hope that in the future we will be using more of recycled material, and we'll look forward for technologies to develop and reuse more of glass, recycled aluminum, recycled UPVC, which is again one of the products which is not being used much in the building industry. So I hope that India will look forward to a bright future in the building industry with more sustainable and green projects like what you do. And wishing you the very best. Thank you for coming and talking to us. I'm sure our viewers would have be very enthusiastic about doing such projects which are really green and using the best sustainable materials. Thank you so much, Architect Choksi. Thanks for the time.
My pleasure. Thank you.